be worth into the future. And that's, basically how that functions. Anyways, the point about this though, the point to understand about this is that you don't ever want to really fuck around with or care for the intrinsic value in terms of like, I'm gonna go ahead and exercise it now. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. The thing that really matters is the extrinsic value. The reason why is because you're sort of like looking at it and being like, yeah, like as the market looks at it, it's like, yeah, like you've got plenty of time and this thing's doing in this direction. It's going up if you have a call. It's like, yeah, well, it's gonna probably keep going up, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, I'll pay that much for it. No, I'll pay that much for it. And it keeps going up and up. So point about it is that the extrinsic value here is more like important to look at when you're dealing with options, because you want to see how much is this thing gonna be worth. I don't really care to exercise it because I could just sell it and get more money for that because the extrinsic value is high. Particularly if you have a lot of time between now and the expiration date. And also it's like been going the way that you've been thinking it, right? Because if it's call, if it goes down, it's like, I ain't got that much value there, right? The extrinsic value. And of course the intrinsic value will be shit too anyways. So in this context, bringing it right back, what are we doing as like ideas? Because again, not financial advice. What are we doing? Well, we're going to be using whatever funds we have, and we'll be going over a little bit about those funds. And we're going to be talking about getting the shares of things like HIBs, as an example, and options, call options specifically, long call options specifically. And months out, they go up to 8 months. We'll be looking at ourselves for about 6 months holding on to it. Now the reason why is because there's something called early assignment. In a nutshell, what that means is someone exercises your call. It's kind of like based on a pooling sort of thing. It doesn't really matter. Basically, someone exercises your call. It's like, hey, like I'm gonna go ahead and like buy 100 shares at the price that it was 360, right? And it's like, but wait a second, it's gone up to like 370 now. I have to buy these shares. You're gonna be the one who's responsible for giving them their shares at 360. It's like, well, I have to buy 100 shares at 370, and that's because someone exercised my call. There are two big reasons why that would happen. One, you are very close to the expiration date, which is something you don't do it. Right? Let's say it's again like it's November, and it's like, well, here we're like at the end of October, like we're like a couple weeks off from the expiration date. Don't do that. That's gonna heighten your chances by a bit of getting early assignment. The other part of it, right? There's that, and then the other part of it too is deep. Oh, geez, not at that. All right. Deep in the money. Yeah, sure. Anyways. Deep in the money, all right? What this phrase means is you have a call, right? Just again, great to use examples. You have a call for SPY at 360. It goes up to, 420 or something like that. That space, we would generally say, that space of like, here's my call versus like, here's now the current price of the underlying security SPY, is a wide enough gap to say like you're deep in the money. Out of the money, particularly deep out of the money, would be like the reverse of that. Like SPY's crashed and you said, but I have a call for 360. It's like, yeah, well, it's 260, like go suck an egg. I'd be deep out of the money, so to speak. It doesn't really matter so much, just, kind of understand that sort of reality. Anyway, so if you're trying to figure out, because this is a really common question and there's no great way to really find out the answer to this one, but there are good experiences. There's a guy I was doing research on options who said that over the last 6 years I've had over a couple hundred options that I've like played with. Out of all those times, about like 5 of them I got assigned early assignment. And the major reasons were because you were close to the expiration date, which we are avoiding the hell out of, and then it was deep in the money. In options, in this case, yeah, that's going to be part of the picture. But because you're mitigating the effects of this, and this is actually kind of a really big reason why, from the research I've done, this kind of means a little more than that. Because you're avoiding this by a couple of months, again, if you're like a week or 2 off, that's not really a great idea. But if you're 2 months off, you're going to be just fine. Generally speaking. So Point about this though is that you may have early assignment happen to you, but looking at the cost to benefit ratio, analysis really, between like doing calls and not doing calls, you're gonna be generally better off doing calls. And let me go ahead now and show you, I wish I had like, shot. All right, let me go ahead now and show you what I'm talking about. There's this app, I vetted it with other things. Options work off of a formula. This one is accurate with that, it keeps in line with it. It is called OptionStrat. OptionStrat. One word, though the S in strat is capitalized. So big O, big S. OptionStrat. And it looks,
OptionStrat.
No, just OptionStrat. Yep. And you open it up, it looks something like this. If you guys can see that, and then we, create call, right? It's right there, create call. And we have Hibs. As here, I put it in. It looks like this, right at the top here. I wonder, can they like see that kind of clearly? Can they see like kind of the picture? Can you? Yeah.
It's really small, but like yeah.
Anyways, okay. Hopefully that's better now. Anyways, so you go right here, just input Hibs. We'll talk about this later. I'll show you guys screenshots. Anyway, so this is kind of what it looks like. All right. Anyways, so you put in Hibs. And you can function through these things. It's like a little bar here. You just change it up, and you can see right here the potential output for what that particular call in this case would offer. So anyways, so we're gonna go to November 18th, and we'll do I don't know, a $9 call. On the money, there's in the money, out of the money. There's also on the money. What on the money means, just simply like here. It's at 360, cool. I'm gonna get a call for at 360. Those are generally the better ones. So let's go ahead and see if this thing goes from $8 to 16 or something like that, right? Just Hibs by November. So what I've just done is I've looked at it going, it doubles, right? It goes 100% right up. What this does is it 3.5. So if we look at Hibs doubling, right, with a call option, the value of it goes up by 3.5 times, right? That's a really big margin. It's a really big margin. So that kept in mind, calls or options in this case, particularly if you can be pretty confident about the direction of something, options are generally pretty good. Now, there's two things to talk about though. Those two things are, in this context, covered calls. There's also covered puts, but don't worry about it. Covered calls, and then as well, naked calls. Okay, so here's the thing about that. Try to write this down. You have covered calls, and you have naked calls. There's really one big difference between the two. So covered calls, naked calls. Okay, there's one big difference between these two. Covered calls. Remember we were talking about the early assignment, right? You have to like front up 100 shares basically, right? Covered calls are thought of as, and they are in a sense, as the less riskier thing to do. The reason why is because of this. So let's say I have currently 100 shares of SPY, right? I also have a call for SPY. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about the expiration date or the number. The strike price doesn't matter. I have a call, and I sell that call, and then someone, the bastard, exercises it, and I get early assignment, right? They need 100 shares from me because they have the right to buy 100 shares at whatever strike price is that, and so presumably if it's not like, well, this thing's worthless because SPY, I could just buy SPY myself from the person who exercised it. I could just buy SPY right now because the strike price is higher than SPY, and I'm like wanting it to go up. So it's a good, again, example, like it's 360. SPY currently it's only 340. They're not going to do this. Why would they buy that when they can just do this, right? But outside of that situation, right, let's say it's 380, they have a good amount of incentive to be like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and exercise this call now. Yes and no as well, because it's like, but wait a second, the extrinsic value, I could sell it myself and get even more money. But that aside, right? They exercise it anyways. They're gonna go for this because, again, the price difference, right? They're not gonna do this, it's more expensive, they're gonna do this. You have to front up 100 shares. Well, guess what? I already got 100 shares. Here you go, right? Because otherwise, so to speak, is like, I had bought these shares at like, I don't know, fucking $300. You know, I bought these 100 shares at $300. The alternative, in order to give them these shares, is that I'd have to buy at 380. Well, guess what? I already bought them. Anyways, I already have them. And it's at 300. You can see how I would save you can see how I would save money here, right? Because I had done it earlier before. This is the point about a covered call, right? Anyways, that's the point about a covered call. You already have them. You already have the shares. The naked call, it is without those shares. So I have a call and I sell it, I get early assignment, and I have no shares. I didn't buy them at 300. Instead, I have to buy them at 380, right? You can see how that one would work. The point to keep in mind about all of this, though, is that to get early assignment is actually exceedingly rare. You have something of like the single digits percentage of doing that. But call options, particularly if it works out well, have a really good rate of return. So it's kind of hard to think about what would be a good idea in terms of like, I have $100 to spend. How many dollars should I put towards getting calls? Should I put $10 towards getting calls, or 25, maybe 30, maybe 35? That's a hard question to ask. And ultimately, you're probably gonna be fine, but there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So to give more to this picture before we go on at all, the thing about calls is that if it doesn't go quite the way that you want it to, you can quickly have that option expire meaninglessly, because it just sort of like stagnates and it's like, for example, if it stays around the area that it was at, then when you had gone like the price of it, the strike price, namely, but also the price itself of the underlying security. Anyways, if it stays there and maybe goes a little like below, again, you have like a call and it goes a little below, you could lose like 75% of the value of that call option. This could happen. I looked at the .com bubble and how that went, and there was a section about midway through where it was stagnant for about like 6 months, maybe, I want to say, thereabouts-ish. Point about this though is that if that can happen, the early assignment, honestly, really don't worry about that one too much. It's the stagnation that could happen though, and at some point it's like, if I put 50% of my money to it, I just lost 75%. You know what I mean? That could actually happen. It's unlikely, it really is, but it could happen. So that's why I would say, like, even though the rate of return for these things is really good, I would say a minority of your funds should go towards the call option. Again, not financial advice. So as an idea, 10 to 25%, probably just fine. Good, it's a risk to reward ratio analysis, right? So you may get a lot of money, but at some point you might lose some of it, or a bit of it, or it may just simply not like go the way you thought it was going to, that sort of thing. And it's like, I don't know, sort of thing. So yeah, anyways, 10 to 25. Personally, I'll probably go maybe do 15, maybe do 20. I don't know, I gotta think about it. But in that range, and of course, if you're more risk, 25, honestly, maybe 30 at the like tops. If you're wanting to just be like, nah, I don't really care for that one. 10, 5, nothing at all. Your choice. Anyways, so those are the basics of that one. And let's see if there's anything else. Okay. Oh, yeah. One last point. For this one last point, it's important. I'm going to turn off the camera. I want you to instead hit me up and ask me, what was this point? It's important, and it can make you a lot of money. I want to see you guys here. I want you guys to be engaged. And also, I can't say it on camera, so it's not like for some bullshit reason. All right, goodbye. Thank you.